Hello and welcome to a new video. So this is Baldwin from Vita Games and the Discord, and I'm showcasing a new map and a few new things. And maybe some of you saw the video we did on the outskirts of Darkament for the Masurian Lakes in the Eastern Front. So we're now back to the Western Front and now playing as the French in early 1914. And in this scenario, the enemy controls, meaning the Germans in this case, the crossroad, the cemetery in the rear, and we're going to be fighting over a meadow and a ditch. It's very World War I, so there are people somewhere far away, 40 miles in the rear, that think this is super important military real estate. So there's a few things we've changed, and as we did the demo, many people, and including myself, realized that the old system of placing down bets was very time-consuming. It didn't make sense with the scope of the game. Would make perfect sense in RimWorld or Colony Sim with a few people, but when you have 42 people, then obviously you don't want to be placing them down individually. So we found up a new system. It's very similar to the guard post system, and we call it the rest area. So it's a radius, and if we place it down, well, we can change the priority. Look, we also been working on the priority because some people weren't sure if 1 was the most important or 9. So this is, I hope, is very clear. And before we start messing with the Germans, we can actually do a really quickly set up some little rest area, because the soldiers on rest duty will gravitate towards these areas, ideally. And we also have all kinds of new animations and making sure this is all set correctly. Alright, and yeah, this guy is already walked towards it, so let's make it a little bit cozy. Just place a couple of tents, because they will also like the idea of sleeping indoors, so the tent will have that. Everyone loves the campfire, and the campfire has this radius which will make them, help them with their composure, make them feel better. And we also set up these like quite experimental like little seats, and essentially what this does, this is basically for the in-game AI to think, okay, I'll sit down here. So as they work on no crap, that's too close. Okay, yeah, because this is obviously a level work in progress, and I had envisioned that this was the final line, but the randomization of the shelling part of the simulation actually went too close to home. So let's actually check out this map. So it's very meadows, this is farmland, it's quite flat, and we're trying to make it interesting. So let's see where we're at. We'll set up a guard post, because this has some cover. Call it the ruins, because it reminds me of the old demo. And then let's set up a couple of guard points so we can see maybe what's in front of us before we either advance our men, because we got plenty of command points, for the meadow or the ditch to take positions. Of course, let's research. And I'm not doing anything trenches until we know where we want to dig. Okay. So the Germans have not done anything, and we're actually testing a new system we call the AI Director. So it's essentially, the long-term vision is that you can choose kind of like what kind of an enemy general you're facing, and it could be an aggressive one, or a passive one, or maybe an incompetent one, or a very brutal butcher one. So in this scenario, the AI will target control points which are either in player control or are in nobody's control. So these two, I know they will be coming for the ditch and the meadow. I don't know which one, because I already set the level, so they already own these 3. So the ditch is quite close to the crossroad, and this is probably dangerous, so let's actually send one of the resting squads to deploy, and let's take the meadow. And we only have from here, so, and we commit to now. We're also experimenting with a lot of game balancing now. The attacks, deployments, and artillery are cheaper in command points, which is great in the bigger maps, and it's interesting to test in a much smaller map. This is similar to the the demo in the June demo we did. Oh yeah, we need planks. So not a lot of planks in this countryside. Alright, there they go. Alright, Elan. So we can actually find this something. Oh, it gives you 40 planks, so we can actually deconstruct that because we need planks. And we have some trees, but this is quite scarce in resources, this map. Don't die, Håkon. Everyone has flu in Iceland. It's horrible. Alright, let's set up this wood area anyway. Now we need some trees cut down. So let's start with the initial stuff before we start doing any trench business. Alright, the Germans have not spotted us yet. Well, artillery is still quite close. So we'll take the system, and also like I've designed that, you know, in areas like in farmlands there are sometimes ditches, drainage, all that kind of stuff, so we can use that as early defenses before we dig. So let's set up another one here. Let's call this the left flank. Let's set this up, and let's use the ditch for defense, because the air director will definitely attack us on the first day. So that leads me to level design, because I knew early when we started doing this game that most people recognize World War I as flat lands, but I need to work on the volume in this game. So people know, especially the Western Front, flat land, little elevation, barbed wire, that kind of stuff. So trying to make meaningful and exciting levels for World War I games. So this is quite typical. It has a country road going through. We have meadows and this other farmland. And then the idea was that the road is actually what dictates how you would design the map, and also the ditch, because you need to work around it, because the enemy will be attacking probably from the middle, either on this one or that one. And that was interesting as I was playtesting this map. It's like it was quite awkward to figure out like a logical way to place, like I would call the first line of defense, and then as we advance we would probably try to set up one here if we can't take the crossroad, because that is heavily defended by the Germans. Okay. Because this is all kind of flat, so the road of course is quite important. So let's set up defenses. Ad hoc, this is just temporary. We will also soon be having a spline system on these, so you can actually place down a nice little wall with these, which I think will be excellent. Placing a machine gun here. And we'll wait with the ditch. Actually have two machine guns. I think I'll place one here as well. We can then always take them down and place them somewhere else, because they're quite expensive. Continue. Okay. So now we have set like little places where they will sleep, which makes sense, like inside the tent. So this one is having a nice little rest. And nothing horrible has happened yet. No casualties. And they do all kinds of new animations, both also when they're stressed. Let's continue building. So yeah, the Germans know where we are. I can actually just reply. Send it over to the crossroad. There we go. And now we are shelling the enemy as well. And we're going to prepare. And then in the next morning, after we've seen what the Germans do, we'll try to take the ditch and then hopefully the crossroad. Let's move resources a bit further down. Ammunition. And then we also have the ever popular body pile back. So now the resources in the game actually look much nicer. They pile up nicer, look more, natural. What it used to look before was very rudimentary, so we're quite pleased with that. and that applies to all resources. And as you can see, resources are exposed to the elements, so we are actually researching right now the storage cover. Okay. We need another guard post here. There we go. And they all have very similar priorities. We have 9 men on guard duty. And this guy, yep, he's bringing the machine gun. And as night is coming, we should be on the lookout for the Germans. Because this is a game in development, we still haven't. So the enemy AI uses the same system as the player, so we will actually unfortunately receive an audio notification, so we know they're coming. But you know, they usually figured out during World War I if something was up because of proximity, but still the Germans are actually not that close. So we'll see if they try to storm the meadow or go through the road. But we have a machine gun, so we should be able to find. But the first attack might be a doozy, so we'll see. Alright. Let's continue focusing on logistics and supplies. Alright. Oh, this one is waiting for a guard point. Okay. This is also a hot build. There's a lot of stuff that will definitely go wrong, so just so everyone knows that if you're watching, something will definitely go wrong. Okay, now the night shift is starting. Okay. Oh, these guys are all idle, so we should probably start thinking about how we're going to design the trench network, because ideally you'd want something like this, but then you have this ditch in between. And we know that we're coming from here and here, everywhere, so I think we should do it in small increments and then line them all up. So we're pretty good here, so I think we should focus our efforts on setting up a line here around this ditch. This is kind of a big one, so I'll just start with this one. Who is our officer? Who is this? This is our Adrian Otis-here, civil engineer. He's depressive, which is not great, but you have to play the hand you're dealt with. We also upgraded the vitals and attributes because we thought there were just too many attributes in the game, which wasn't maybe relevant for a more conventional colony sim, but with so many men it just felt superfluous, for the lack of a better word. And now also they are more affected by sanity, by almost being hit by a shell or seeing, you know, friendlies going down. Okay, so this is us cheating. Now we know the Germans are coming. Let's mess them up. Let's hope they go for the ditch. And also new system, so we now have this thing. So we have a new, basically big system called the contextual event system. So there are like historical things that pop up, like the Battle of the Masurian Lakes in this example. So if historical events happen in the game, like if in this case if the Germans or Russians win a battle over there, and if you're playing as either one, then your soldiers will be either really happy or they might be a bit depressed and experience like they're on the losing side. So this will all play a part in the game, and also with the soldiers. So the officer might now start, his men might get starting, you know, panicked. Oh, Germans are coming. Let's put everyone back on the shift, because I have no idea where they're coming from. And this is just a makeshift one. Oh, yep. There they are. Great. because this is nighttime, we don't see them that well. Our men don't see that. Oh no, they're on top of us. Fight, 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 fight. Okay. Hey, we're doing pretty good. So, classical, very like confusing, chaotic night battle, and the Germans are fleeing. Stop following him. This is something we need to fix. Sometimes our AI just walks around. Okay, thank God. Because they walk slower at nighttime because it's dark, so it sometimes looks funny. And even yesterday, one of the advancing Germans actually moonwalked back and reversed all the back to enemy rear. So a lot of funny things happening right now. All right, I don't think they'll be coming back, so let's put those guys back to sleep. And we'll continue building. Whew, that was close. You know, ideally in this game, you would want to take something like the ditch at nighttime. And it is quite tempting to do that now because I only had 3 casualties. But I'm gonna wait patiently because I think it will benefit that we have a better defensive position. Like almost like a continuous line, more or less. And then a fallback position we can place here. And then we'll be ready to take the ditch. And then we have better... Well, we'll be able to see what the Germans are up to at the crossroad, but as the level designer I can tell you it's quite heavily defended and it's basically like a small village. And there we are. And we also have to think about stuff like babysitting our precious resources so they don't be too much exposed to the elements. We don't want that. Stop that. Got plenty of planks. How are they doing? They're relaxing. Getting a little bit stressed. Haven't seen some combat. And, they're all smoking, but we still don't have the cigarettes right in the game. We don't have the... I might have to put a PGI rating on it, but they are pretending to smoke, which is probably ideal than actually real smoking. But of course, cigarettes and pipes will of course be in the game. We just have to get the prop in there. The Germans send someone back to them. Oh no. Oh no, what's happening? Yeah, this sometimes happens that we don't know why, but sometimes just one of our guys just walks towards the enemy. We're figuring that out. Oh, it's getting dawn, so now we can actually have a look at, you know, the new systems. So what we've also been adding, this is just the beginning, is more of a visualization of what's happening on the battlefield. And that includes the terrain height. As I mentioned before, it's like not a lot of high elevation in this area on the western front, but even just a tiny little elevation like this can do a lot and also help players to understand, I don't think, the terrain height or the topography. Then the other thing we've been also thinking about is the terrain difficulties. There's less of it in this map, but this is like telling you like which parts will eventually, like the red one, will be places where it takes the soldiers more time to walk. Oh, we did pretty good. Still feel hungry, but you know, we have a full house. And the one thing I'm most excited about in the visualizations, well, I'll wait for the song. Like, let's skip away from the song. All right, I think the Germans are coming back, so let's get ready for them, shall we? I actually wrote that song like 3 days before we did the demo in my garage. Good memories. Here the Germans come. And all our guards, where are they? They're going back. So I was going to talk about stop shooting. I was going to talk about also the new system we're building. And a lot of people have asked in the community about using like old trench maps and stuff. It could even be like something like in the Fog of War, like the impression of trench maps with all its stuff, you know, all the lines and texture of pencils and stuff. And we've been thinking about that because we're trying to, because we have the control points, which is great, right? Because it helps you understand like how you win the map by slowly taking them. And for each control point, you get more command points, which will be both the obviously expedite research, artillery, and also be able to pull in more units and a lot of stuff in the future. But we also wanted to think about like, instead of you could just place whatever you wanted anywhere, then there should be like a way for you to incentivize the player to actually advance. So we thought, how about, because you're playing in one trench sector, how about we would have like a map quadrant system? So we're actually implementing that right now. We call it quadrants. So each one will have like a name. So this would be like B3, B2, B1. And as you start entering the quadrants, and as long as it's not contested by you, the enemy, you slowly take over it and own the quadrants. And if it's contested, then it's obviously will be decided on who is still alive. But you can then slowly expand building trenches. But you cannot like start building a trench over here in this quadrant if you don't own the adjacent one. And yeah, this is like exciting, and also it goes more into World War I of like the artillery attacks would be then just, it would be like we're only attacking this quadrant or maybe these two, and also it's like looks nice, it makes it more like, yeah, it's definitely in part of the vision of the game, and I think that's quite exciting. So I think now as the next step is to actually do a small recon. Let's go and check out how close the Germans are to the ditch. So let's send over these guys let's send them from the ruins. Let's do it now. And let's put it at very low acceptable losses. So it's like currently how we do recon in the game, but there will be like a specific mission type, and then the men will behave more like a recon, so they won't engage. They will just try to spot the enemy to give you, the player, some idea of what's happening. So the runner is finding the officer. There he is. There is our guy, Adrian. He's depressed, as you can see. And he's telling him, please stop. Stop, man. This sometimes happens. Okay. Like I said, it's a hot build. Okay. Order received. And now our friends in the squad number 4. French people, please help me with the pronunciation. Esquadra number 4. Okay, so French people, you're up. And now we're going to check out what happens here at the ditch. And let's mess with the Germans as well. Let's send over another artillery kiss. Okay, they're all getting ready. Let's think about as they go. Let's give it a little bulge here. As you can see, the Germans like taking the road. Oh no, they're taking the wrong way. Okay, this is not good. Okay, now we can see the crossroads. They're quite well defended. Okay, no, wow. So now we know, but it came at the cost of, we lost 3 guys. So that's war for 4 guys. So dig. Oh, for always forget, we can actually build these stations to help us dig faster. So priority top. So look, now they actually are using the seats, sitting down, smoking their imaginary cigarettes, having a bit of eat. And this guy is pretending he's reading. writing a letter home. We just have to add these props to the game. And now we have a shift change. And now we will test and try to take the ditch. So when the Germans wake up, it will be ours. Okay, so now let's try some funny business. Sending over. Yes, you will be tired. You won't die. So let's go and get the ditch in the cover of darkness. And if something funny happens, we can send an artillery barrage over to annoy the Germans. Okay, this our guys. Okay. Just to be certain. It will be hilarious if the Germans are also going to the ditch at the same time. We'll see. That actually did happen during the war, that they would attack at the same time, which is probably terrifying. No, they're not here. So we are now slowly claiming... Excuse me. We're claiming the ditch. Here the Germans come. Where's our runner? He is delivering the message to HQ for the artillery strike on the crossroad. Did he go there? Okay. The Germans are holding the crossroad. We'll try to take that. And we got it. So that's like interesting. Like, how do you defend a ditch? Because if we place the men here, they will just be completely obliterated in the morning. So ideally, we'd like to set up another position here, which is still, we still can make it if we put all the men to work on it. And everyone to work. Nighttime building. Like I said, because this is difficult to defend, so the best way to defend it is by having guns on their approach. They will probably come from here. So ideally, that's what we want. We don't have a machine gun. Not good. Let's try to increase the chances that we get the machine gun in the next supply run. Alright. And the field maneuvers is great, because then we can make a preferred path so the AI wants to walk in the ditch instead of being exposed over here at daytime. Which is great, right? Set up. Oops. Front right. Bit too close for comfort. Let's set up this. And I think we'll go for an attack on the crossroads. And let's see what happens. Alright, we're attacking from multiple directions. From the meadow, the ditch, and the ditch, and from the line. And let's do it. Let's just go for it. All of them. Oh no. Here are the runners. Oh, he's wounded. That's not good. Crap. This might turn into an absolute mess. This is kind of where things might break, because we're all attacking at the same time. So let's see if we can take the crossroad. We're shelling them. Let's shell them again. Oh no. Alright, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Because ideally they should not be setting up. They should be setting up in the cover of the ditch, which is just like a shortcut, so they can attack at a shorter distance. Where is the officer? There he is. Alright, let's go, boys. Getting ready. And let's see what happens. Alright, it's not going well. Nope. Absolute turkey shoots. But this was just an ill-advised assault just to end the demo. This video has gone quite long, actually. Alright, but we go on. We are at... Nope. Oh, wait. But yes, thank you very much for watching. You can now see a little bit towards the cemetery. Okay. And hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, please join the Discord. Hit us up, send us a question, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So, thank you very much. Bye-bye.